Guitar Center's having a 10% off used and vintage sale. Let's do the $1,500 challenge. Can I find a screamin' deal? Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. That's not a bad deal on an Adam Jones standard. That'd be like, what, $1,800 after your discount? Ooh, that's almost perfect. Oh no, I was too late. These can sell upwards of $2,500. It's a solid body ES335 from the early 80s. Looks like somebody probably swapped out our pickups and made a few other light modifications, but that was a screaming deal. But oh, here's another contender. 1993 Studio in the nice white finish. It stays healthily within our budget. All I'm seeing that's wrong with this is a little bit of stand rash on the back. But you gotta look at all the photos to know for sure. Looks like a little bit of rubbing up here, and the rest is just general finish checking. Okay, large ding on there. But do we have a case? It says soft shell, but man, that thing is aged beautifully. I'll consider it. Whoa, is that what I think it is? Ah, not again. I'm pretty sure that's the guitar of the week. Thankfully, I already have that one in my collection, so I'm not as heartbroken. Because ideally, I'd like to add something to my collection today that I want to keep. Yep, sure enough, that was Guitar of the Week. At $1,600, that guitar could have sold for as much as $2,500. I've seen Guitar Center get really aggressive with their used pricing. It certainly is worth checking them out, but even I'm guilty of not doing it every day. This SG Junior has me curious. It says it's like new with little wear, but is that a Gibson Mother of Pearl logo I'm seeing? Usually Juniors don't have that. I think that might just be the lighting though. Yeah, I see it now. It was that shading right here that made it look pearlescent. I'm surprised to see that they're considering 1998 vintage, but then this 1990s just listed as used. These early 1990 SGs are kind of freaks of nature. They have the blending of late 80s specs, but some of the 90s elements are starting to come into play, like you've got the bound rosewood fretboard with the trapezoid inlays. And by 80 specs, I mean it has a side output jack. If I remember correctly, this one's actually called Candy Apple Red. And another cool thing about this run is it has the prehistoric style logos. I've seen these on Reverb, ranging anywhere between $2,000 and $4,000, so $1,800 with your discount, not too bad. But ooh, this one could be a solid. So with discount, you're about, what, $1,250-ish. It's got a big chip up there. The big question is, are the pickups still original? Because that's a Firebrand Deluxe. That means it has the upgraded mahogany body if you don't happen to enjoy walnut wood. Personally, I like the walnut ones though. We've got one of those Les Paul SL style guitars with the small trapezoid inlays. I haven't reviewed one of those. That's a little under $1,000. That's pretty fair. Looks like somebody modified your toggle switch orientation, but that's easy enough to fix if you got your little wrench. I believe somebody put a pick guard on it. That's not a huge deal. If anything, it looks pretty nice with that yellow grain fill. These things are always fun too. The Futuras series. It's not always those crazy Carina body things. There's a Les Paul Futura, which we talk about a lot whenever I mention a blue guitar having that kind of greenish back due to the maple and mahogany color differences. But the SG version still has that cool P90 Sidewinder and humbucker combination. Yeah, I see those things range anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500. So yeah, that's definitely towards the lower end. But oh hey, that's fun. New Century. I am not personally a big fan of the New Century series. Like sure, having the mirror pick guard and truss rod cover is really cool and all, but they just tend to be so heavy, and many that I've had fretboard issues, but that just could have been because of how that particular guitar was stored. It's another one of those ones where it can range anywhere from $12,000 to $2,000, and this one actually still has a case, so that's nice. That's a pretty fair price on a Midtown. If you're not familiar with these, it's basically a 335 shaped Les Paul because it's just a chambered mahogany body rather than being pressed top, back, and side. So that means the top is actually flat. You don't find the P90 version very often. Now, it does have a little bit of a chip right here in the captured soul of the photographer. And while I don't necessarily sing the praises of the Midtown series much, when you can pick them up for about $1,000, that's when I consider them a good value. Oh, cool. One of the Joe Bonamassa signatures? I've seen these things list all the way up to $3,000. However, keep in mind it says condition is fair because there's different versions to this. There's the Studio, which normally sells around $2,000. And then there's the standard. I'm really curious what kind of wear and tear has this one marked all the way down to 18 with our discount. That seems pretty fair. Okay, there we go. It's got the scratches on the back, but it's a black back. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, then we got that chip there. Still a great deal for a player, but somebody's ring was definitely running up the backside of that. And ooh, gold burst. The only downside to this one is it appears to be heavily played right there. And the pickups have been swapped out. And usually that's not too big of a deal, but we're talking vintage T-tops here. Actually, 1981, we're talking Tim Shaw PAFs. And oh, it's marked a second and somebody shaved the neck down a little bit. Still a fun one for a player, but I think for the collector, I'll let that one go. These things are phenomenal. I believe it was a Guitar Center exclusive from 2014. It's another one of those ones where it's a chambered Les Paul that they put a maple cap on, but it's flat, so it's like a Les Paul special, but it has some of the other fancier elements like a Gibson mother of pearl logo. 2000 is a little bit high for that particular model, though. But if I'm remembering correctly, it also has coil splits on your volume knobs. Now we've got two solid SGs. So just a little bit over 1,000 after a discount. This is an 87 SG special. Oh my goodness, look at these guys getting the color right. Pewter. That was just recently that we had updated all that after we saw the official advertising sheets, as it was previously called charcoal metallic. That one doesn't seem to be in too bad of shape. I don't know if I necessarily need one of these for my collection, but it looks like the pickups are still original, and being 87, you've got a very small chance they could be Tim Shaw's. They're most likely some sort of a transitional something or other, but I'm gonna seriously consider that. The other is an early 70s SG Deluxe. I've seen these things sell for upwards of 3,000. Now, generally speaking, I suggest staying in that 18 to 25-ish range. Looks like we're missing one knob. It's the version with the Bigsby. Our neck pickup is, oh my goodness. See, Guitar Center has this new AI program that takes out the background, and most times it looks pretty good. That's the first one that makes it look like a mouse was getting hungry for a cheese guitar. But whoa, that's an unfortunate wear pattern. But you know what? I bet this thing plays phenomenally if it happens to be in that condition. Not quite stage 4, but a nice solid stage 3. Here's a couple of models you don't see every day. It's a guitar of the week I have not documented. I mean, to be honest, it's one of my least favorite ones out of the Gothic series. It's a black satin SG standard equipped with EMG pickups, but if I remember correctly, it's got an ebony fretboard, but they gave it the decal logo. I see these things range from like 12 to 18. I mean, this one looks like it's got quite a bit of wear, because that's the thing. With it being a satin finish, it's going to gloss up if it ever gets played, and an instrument like this one, it's made to chug. And this one, an LPM 850. I wonder if it still has the hard shell case. The one thing to know about this, though, it is a 2015 model, which means Les Paul signature up there. It looks like it's already had the conversion nut put onto it and will need a serious cleaning. And hey, we still have the eTune system. You might want to rip that off or learn to use it. If it functions, it's great. But there is a learning curve. Oh my goodness, it does. If that's the golden one, that's a fantastic deal, even before you consider the discount. And these old 2010s tributes are just fantastic guitars. So this one is a 70s tribute. Now, does it look much like a 70s SG? Not necessarily, but they hot rodified it by giving it Dirty Fingers pickup stock. You don't have any pick guard, and they made them 24 frets for whatever reason. And then this particular one has the witch hat knobs. That is very 70s. And oh, we've got some interesting strap button situations going on there. But these are a satin finish. Ooh, that's an expensive pedal. I always find it funny when there's goof ups like that. But here's a 70s tribute Firebird Studio. And then another different 70s tribute. I wonder, was that other one supposed to be 80s tribute? They had so many different models. Like this one's a little bit more tried and true to 70s specs with those small block inlays. Again, you get the decal logo. That's a cool guitar with the black and the cream. But they have the pole pieceless mini humbuckers. But good, I was hoping they would have the Les Paul one. So here's the 70s tribute of that. Basically, they just Dirty Fingersified it, so they're really thinking late 70s on that. But let's see, does it have the volute? Yes, that's why you buy one of those. Because back in that time period, getting a voluted neck was like a really special limited edition type thing. Here we've got a mystery guitar. SG flat red solid body. Well, I can see the volute, so it's probably one of those 70s tributes again. But we've got the maple neck just as additional 70s flair. Serial number dates it to 2012, so that's within range. And oh, nice, a Vixen. You don't see that color every day, but I've already got one of those. These things do not sleep on. I know they might not look like much, but back in 2019, these were $1,000 brand spanking new. They had one of those soft gig bags to them, but when you actually went to play one, there's a reason why these things sell for a premium today, because they're just fantastic. I do have a review and demo if you're interested. Not quite sure what's going on with the neck right there. Looks like it might just be a shadow situation because I see it there too. But that is a 2018 that you should highly consider. But there we go, 60s tributes. Those are my personal favorites because they got the P90 pickups. Although, let's take a quick peek at these double cut standards. The only reason these things aren't ridiculously as expensive is because they're not traditional. But if you like the double cut specials and juniors, as I documented more and more double cut models, I kind of understood them a bit better. I usually like to strike on these, anywhere in the 1200 to 16-ish range. So we're towards the top of that with our discount. But this one's been modified with cream pickups that look pretty nice on that finish. I have been wanting to review of the Paul too, and maybe we need an updated take on the N225. Wow, $1,500 for a signature Explorer. They say it's good condition too. I should have waited before I purchased mine. But okay, there you go. Chip up here. I imagine that'd be slightly difficult to touch up. But after your discount, you're at $1,350. Just go play the thing. What's going on here? Les Paul Standard, $1,750 before discount. They're calling it Blue Sapphire. What year are we working with here? Because it's got a natural back and sides. At first, I was hoping for like mid-2000s, but this looks newer than that. Yeah, if we zoom in here, that's 2024. I wonder if that's a Viper Blue exclusive. Either way, after your discount, you're just a little under, $1,600. That's a great deal. And then they've got this weird Game Boy guitar. So if I understand it properly, there's a local guitar center who just partnered with a guy who builds these things. That would be hilarious to review. I'm just not really sure how it would play. It's got some Bo Diddley vibes going on. Being headless makes it quite unique. And oh my goodness, what is this doing there? This thing was being passed around on Reverb quite often. And at one point in time, it had an owner that was considering peeling off the top decal and then having it refinished or something like that. So it's a Les Paul traditional. It probably is legit. It might have just been some promo piece, but for like 15 shipped to your door. What's it say there? Something custom shop. Nah, that was probably somebody's idea of a customization then. I don't even like Monster, but I think the design's kind of cool. Wow, that is a screaming deal. $950, what's wrong with it? That's all I'm asking. Because these 2018 studios, there was a time they would fetch $1,500 on the used market. Nowadays, we have these back. I think it's a Guitar Center exclusive even. They don't have the battery in it, but 2018 studios were special because they put binding on them. Nowadays, that's no longer considered special, but silver burst and that color? Looks like if you can live with some dings, that's not a bad price. Those LPMs are solid little guitars. I know they look goofy with their giant Gibson logo, but it looks like somebody's replaced the pickups with EMGs. But then they call this one Studio Worn Vintage Sunburst. I wonder, did somebody refinish it? No. They might have added the EMGs though. Well, maybe they did. I'm not really sure what that model is. But here we go, custom color, the Paul Deluxe. I've recently learned that the official color code, unless it's Ferrari red, it's kind of hard to tell in photos sometimes, it's actually Devil Red. I would have never expected that to be a real color. This one's got some wear and tear. And yeah, we can see down to the bare wood right there. I'm not seeing any white clear coat. So yes, that is confirmed. Devil Red. Maybe a bit too worn for my collection though. Here's another one of those Futuras with a crazy modification, one of those FRX systems. If I remember correctly, you can sell those used for like $200. So you're at about $850 minus that. That gets you it for $600. I mean, if it has the case, don't know why we're missing a screw up there, but that's easy enough to fix. And man, there's just lots of deals here. Look at that. I know what you might be thinking. Hey, Les Paul Classics don't have 3 humbuckers. There was a limited edition run that did. However, I don't remember if they had Seymour Duncans like that. But I do remember one of the versions at least had the mahogany top, and that's what I'm seeing here. it was a different dealer exclusive. And yeah, sure enough, 2002. Oh, but it's got the headstock brake. I was gonna say, usually these things are like 25 to 35, but that makes sense now. Here's one of those small trapezoid inlay guitars again, but it's got some interesting wood grain within the body, and they're calling it an SL. That means sans lacquer. It's one of the only poly-finished Gibsons that I know of. I do like the wood grain there. Unfortunately, somebody swapped out the pickups with the P94s, so maybe not the best candidate for a review of the ages. Similar story on this M3 reissue. That's funny. They put one of the red and black, what is it, DiMarzios in there, and then they swapped out the neck pickup too. I believe this run came with dirty fingers, so that's easy enough to replace in today's market. 18's not the worst price I've ever seen on one of those. Looks pretty clean otherwise. But ooh, I might have found it. All right, so the Classic Rock series. It's one of those models I've been waiting for the right one to show up, and I really like the kind of swirly nature of this. The only downside is it's a 2015. Now, it looks like somebody's already installed tuners, so I don't have to worry about that. Or you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. I'm going to have to do some more research into that. But maybe, just maybe this is the one. I know we've been looking at a lot of Fire brands, but this one has an added pick guard. But I wanted to point it out because, look, it's one of the actual... What did they do? So what this looks like to me is it was probably refinished in a natural again. So maybe the started life is one of the colored ones. Because this logo should be down, but it looks like somebody filled it in and then clear coated over top of it. That's a shame. I love those things. Here's one of the Alpine White Studios. We talk about this quite often on the show. If you're gonna buy a used studio, go for the early 90s that still has the ebony fretboard, but the Arctic Whites of the 2000s and early 2010s retain the ebony board a little bit longer. And I wanted to click on this because I thought, oh no, weird discoloration. However, when you look at this photo, it's completely straight. I think that's catching the shadow of the person using their phone. But then, oh wait, what is this? It's signed by Slash on the back. I don't know if that's actually a signature. That looks too perfect. Maybe that's a decal somebody put on. I'd have to read the description. But if legit, I mean, for $1,000 bucks, that's pretty cool. Unfortunately, I don't see any detailed description here. But the nice thing about Guitar Center Online right now is if you're like me and condition's important to you, they actually list where it is now. I don't suggest using the message us function because I've never gotten a response out of that. But a phone call, yeah, you can talk to somebody. And they can text you photos and things like that. And oh my goodness, what did somebody do to a Les Paul Gothic? We've got some interesting pinstriping to the top. It almost looks like a June bug or something, but it's red and white pinstriping with a clear pick guard. It honestly looks pretty nice, but I have been wanting to review one of the All-American 2s. Oh, what's with the name over here? Les Paul Classic Eerie Des Swirl. I mean, I give it to him. It is a little bit eerie, but I think somebody's getting a little bit fancy with their names over here. Looks like a trans ebony flame top classic, maybe with some modifications. And I know it looks like giant bear claw scratches, but that's just the guitars reflecting. But it was definitely heavily used. You never know what you're going to find at Guitar Center used, that's for sure. Now, this is the other version of the N225. It's the black pinstripe version. I've already done a review a long time ago, but I should probably add one to my collection. This one looks a little bit more worn than I'd like. The wood grain on the Studio caught my attention briefly. Now, for a model that's supposed to be a complete plain top, you get some decent figuring in that. Here's a fun, totally vintage offering. ES120T. So the reason why these were a little bit more affordable all the way back in the day is because they chop up the top. Like, I believe if you take that off, there's just a giant gaping hole under there and you're missing one of the F-holes because of that. I suppose you could think of it as like the melody maker of the ES, 125, something like that. I mean, imagine being able to say, hey, yeah, I picked up a 1967 Gibson today for under 15. Wood grain's pretty sweet on that. And look, this one even includes a coffee break, buddy. All right, Troglodytes, I think that's enough hunting fun. Feel free to use my affiliate links in the description if you want to hunt Guitar Center used for whatever you prefer. I hope you find a good deal. I know I found a few of them. Maybe I'll even purchase one of these for review and documentation. Take care.